Hello, everyone. This is Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And we had a little delay with our start time. The presenter was in a meeting that ran over. She's on her way back to her desk, and she should be launching her presentation in just a minute or two. So it seems like this presentation was a little doomed due to technology, but we should be okay in a minute. So bear with me. Thanks for your patience, and we will get started shortly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello,
Hi.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
sorry for, yes, can you hear me?
Yes. We
Perfect.
seem to
Sorry for the
be
delay. I ran over in a meeting, so
okay.
today is not going how I planned.
It's like last Thursday, so we're going to
Yeah.
get through this. And everyone was very excited about hearing the details of your presentation. And I thank you for your flexibility. So we have quite a few of people on the line.
Okay,
So I will just turn it over to you. We can go ahead and get started.
perfect. All right. Can you guys see my screen or is there screen sharing or anything?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to see if you can see that. Okay, so I will just kind of start from the beginning, and please jump in if you have questions as I go through these. But the biggest thing about how to ultimately is instead of pitching, it's how do you tell your story or your brand story. And what makes a successful story is one, just what is kind of your unique value that you're bringing to that retailer. So, what is your brand's reason for being, and why is it unique? If it's already in the market or not, what is the void it's filling? Um, and really play to like your story and your passion behind it. Like, why did you start this brand? You know, and why are you really passionate behind it? Two then is guest relevance. So, or else, as Brandy was talking about last week too, guest or your consumer or your shopper, however that retailer refers to them. That's always a great thing to know. Like, what is that retailer's speak and lingo? but know who your guest is and why they are your guest. And then if you can get to any data or talk to somebody about what that retailer's guest is, that is always a very, very, very strong suit. And then how do they complement each other? How does your guest complement that retailer? So are you ultimately bringing in a new guest to that retailer or playing to their largest consumer that they have in store today? Third then is alignment with retailer strategy. So the big thing here is listen, listen, listen. Always ask first, what are the buyer strategies? What are their largest pain points? What are they trying to solve for the category? So then is your brand helping the buyer in some way, shape, or form? And ultimately for them to achieve their goals and grow their category. And then also to always have a category approach versus just a vision just about your brand. How will this help and grow the entire category and make it more relevant for the guest or your retailer compared to the rest of the marketplace? And then ensure you're asking for clear next steps, making sure it's really easy for the retailer to execute on what they need to launch your brand and what you need from them to be successful as well. So having sure each item is clearly defined that you're pitching. So things like what is the cost, retail margin, sales forecast, anything like that, addressed with each item. And then ensure you're asking for what you want. So do you need to hit a certain amount of store count? Are there segmented stores that you would best fit in and that's where you want to be versus launching full chain? Or how much can your production actually fulfill and that kind of stuff? Any big questions on kind of an overview? And then we'll dive into these a little bit more. Okay, just keep going. So this is just kind of the framework we use to present or how we set up our deck. So really starting with a financial overview. It's always kind of good to know as well what your buyer likes, if you can get to that information. Are they really financially driven, or are they a little bit more on the, creative side and they want to talk more about concepts and the art and that kind of stuff? It also might help you determine how you want to put together your presentation too. Is it going to be more charts and numbers? Oops, it's just jumping around on its own. Charts or numbers, or is it going to be more graphs or anything like that? So, so a big thing around financials is, health of your current, if you're, your current brand, if you're in any retailers or in the industry, and then jumping to guests. So again, big thing is really connecting the guests you have. What are their motivations and needs? And then really, are they, what are the industry trends behind it, your recommendation, and does that guest ultimately fit the retailer? And then going into the specific products. So what are each item that you have that you are pitching to them? And I would really ensure you have, kind of a honed in assortment, and really curated. It's not just trying to pitch them everything and just seeing what sticks. Really trying to go with a curated assortment and say, this is what I feel would do really well at your retailer, and how it works together. Because a lot of time if you go in and you just throw every item you have out there, that's when buyers will get overwhelmed and kind of just glaze over it. Because you have to remember too, usually when you're pitching to a buyer, they are also seeing 20 other brands that day with hundreds and hundreds of more items. So how do you make yourself stand out and look unique? So also with products, how do those items link to any kind of guest insights, incrementality, and again, what's special for the retailer? And then the last part is really wrapping it up, how we talked about before, is really put your plan together. So how do you ensure the success of your brand at that retailer? How will you drive growth, kind of the purchase journey, any investment commitments, so, with promotions or any social media linking to that retailer, anything like that, because retailers will always ask for money as well when pitching products or when looking at products as well. So in terms of, fixturing or campaigns or anything like that. So again, it's really about selling solutions, not products. So I think we usually start with the what and then move into the why, but you should be really starting with your why and then moving into your how and then what you are going to do to help solve that. So really about, again, what we've talked about, what is the reason for being, exploring the guest's unmet need, and then imagining a solution for that, and then what are the items that will ultimately help solve that solution with the brand. And then really around your brand strategy. So what's your reason for being? Again, this is ultimately your story. So where have you been? Where are you going? Or what are your hopes for the brand? The buyers love to hear that, where you envision it going and what the future looks like. I think a lot of the time we go in, or brands go in and have a pitch of, what we're going to just do for the next year, but buyers really want to hear what is your 3-5-year outlook for your business, and what are you going to do to get there, and then why do you think you are going to be successful, and in the assets you're putting behind it to make it. So what is your marketing strategy? What is your launch plan, your production plans, anything along those lines? And then your recommendations and asks for the buyer. So I think it's just really creating an easy checklist and making it easy for them. They are usually swamped with requests and information. So how do you make it really easy to execute your brand? So just be clear and direct. You don't want to leave any of your information open for interpretation. So what do you want and what you don't want as well. Be bold, but be realistic. The big thing is that, again, kind of going back to the previous point of a lot of people just pitch 50 different items, but, the retailer may be able only to bring in 5. So again, always ask for more than what you are hoping for, but again, it's still being realistic, because usually you're not going to be able to bring in a whole line and every item underneath your brand or assortment. And a lot of the time, too, is that there is a cross-functional team making these decisions. It's not sometimes always the buyer as well. And then be specific to each retailer. So you shouldn't have a blanket approach. When you're approaching each retailer, you should have very narrowed in and specific kind of approach and strategy for each retailer. So really understanding what makes each retailer tick, who's their guest, what are their big strategies. You can go in and look at, their earnings call, how are things working within the business or within that retailer today, and then creating a pitch on that. Because Target or Walmart does not want to hear what the other retailer is going to get. So they want to be unique and different, and that is their big play. They don't want to get what everybody else is getting. And then it's pretty much you're not going to get anything you don't ask for. So ask for, obviously you're giving a lot to the buyer, but ask for some things in return as well. So the buyers are probably always going to ask for, sales, pressure on margin, that kind of stuff. So if you need to give up some of those to get in, then ask for, increased SKU count or store count increases, or is it potential that you could play into a new category and that buyer could help make an introduction into that area, cost purchases, things like that. So get creative. And then this just kind of goes into the more, I guess, details of the framework of kind of a way we set up our presentation when going and pitching different brands to the target buyers. So again, financials. A lot of the time buyers potentially will give you templates before heading in of all the information that needs to be filled in before attending that meeting. So ensuring you're doing that, or ask them if they have a template that they want filled out of information, so you are ready when entering your presentation. Again, keep it simple. Really remember your time frame too when going into these presentations. Usually buyers or people are running late, just like me today. And so usually if you have a 30-minute meeting, it probably means you're really going to have 20, 25 minutes with that person. So always plan on that. So keeping your decks short and to the point is really helpful. You know, walking into a 30-minute meeting with a 45-page deck is probably not realistic, and the buyers are going to get overwhelmed from the start. And they're going to just always be constantly looking ahead versus staying in the moment with you. And also a big one, financials. I know this doesn't apply to a lot of you too, but as you get into the retailers too, or if you've had success at other retailers, address if things are not working and why they're not working, and what is the fix to solve those. Okay, really around the guest then, so kind of what we talked, what are the industry trends, really like telling your story behind it. And then what are, you know, really talking about like getting in depth with your consumer, like what are their motivations, the needs, and why does that fit into your company? And then there's just a little example there. So it's kind of painting a picture, or even creating like an identity for your brand. A lot of people will come up like, this is our guest or our consumer, Sarah, and she likes to do this, 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 and this, versus just like automated, keeps going on. So she likes this, she has a family of this, these are her hobbies, versus, oh, our customers say they really like it. So really getting into more of the specifics around your guest and why they love your product, and really identifying a lot more. Product then, again, kind of nothing really new, but really curating your assortment for that retailer, and what looks best together and how is it going to fit on the shelf. So a big thing would be ensure you're walking that retailer before you're pitching them, and walking that category that you are interested in being in. How are they merchandising on the shelf? What are the different fixtures they have that you could play into? Just so you know, when you are pitching products, kind of potentially the fixture it will sit on or in, and maybe even the space you could have within it. Again, it could be a couple SKUs, it could be a whole shelf, just depending on what is the space, how big that category is in general. And then a big thing again too is like, they are going to see your product 10 times or more throughout the day or that week when they are doing line pitches. So what makes you unique, and how will the buyer remember you, and what makes you different? And then really the plan. So ask for what you need, and really get the retailer excited. So how are you going to activate this purchase journey, and really what are you going to do to get the guest engaged with that retailer and with your products as well. Those are the main points at the end of it. Does anyone have any big questions? I kind of went over that fast because I'm going to repeat it from last time. Nothing?
Does anyone have questions for Tori? Well, if there are no questions, Tori, that means you did a very good job of reviewing the information. Thank you
It's
so
a lot
much.
to digest.
Yes, thank you. And hang on, I just want to. Oh, there is a question. Someone that wants to know if they can receive copies of the presentation.
Yeah, so I might just send out the overview. It's kind of proprietary information for Jacobs and something we put together. So I will share as much as I can. It might just not be the full deck.
Okay.
That works.
All right, let me see if there are other questions. Okay, there is another question. Do you have recommendations for vendors who are brand new to the market? For example, if there's not a lot of sales data available, what do you recommend they do?
Yeah, that's where I would try to research or provide as much information on like trend information. There's a couple things out there around, trend analytics. There's like Mintel reports. I know these are kind of bigger systems, but there might be something you're able to find to say why you believe that this is a trending product or segment, and what you believe, sales could do. And I think too, it's if you're in the right trend, and you're seeing like articles pop up, blogs pop up, that kind of stuff, I would speak to those. The buyer should usually be aware of what's trending in their category. So they should they'll quickly know if it's something that they're interested in or not. So I don't think you always need financials. It's kind of telling that trend and brand story within that category. And then kind of like what makes it different, or if you can find like items that have some kind of financials with it, and say it may react something like this, but will probably even be better in sales because it's a unique product.
Okay, we have another question. How can you find out about retailers' willingness to co-promote, and what does that typically look like?
Can you have them clarify, is co-promote like with your brand, or if like you promote with a different brand?
And the person that asked that question, please clarify. She said both.
Both. I guess co-promote, I mean, the retailer is always looking for that. So there is opportunity to get into, the weekly ad or circular. There's stuff to do things on like brands or retailer specific like apps, like Target has a big one, and Cartwheel. I would say anytime you do a promotion through a retailer, it's usually co-promoted, or they're the ones supporting it, and they are the ones, I guess, approving it. Essentially, they won't usually promote a lot of things without their stamp of approval and your stamp of approval. There may be a couple things you can do to drive people to that retailer on your own, like Crazy Coupon Lady, or, offering some other type of promotions or % off, manufacturer coupons, that kind of stuff. So I would say the retailers are really open into doing co-promoting. Brand to brand promoting, or when you're looking at that way, I think the retailer is open to it. They won't be as involved in it, so you really have to own it and run with it and come to them with a strategy on how it is going to, affect each brand, and could affect the retailer. But I think it's something that definitely was not that retailers were not doing, but are definitely open more to brands partnering and promoting together, because I know it also is a cost saver as well, and within some retailers, or in the market too. So again, it's one of those things, like, it doesn't hurt to ask. They may just tell you no, or a different way to look at it, and each retailer is going to be a little bit different too.
All right. Specifically, community engagement.
Yep.
Let me reread this. Specifically, community engagement activations, do you find that retailers support ads with cases?
I think it depends on the retailer, I'm sure. Some will. I think it depends on how big the brand is sometimes. I know Target, like anything you kind of do like community-wise or in community engagement or social media engagement, I think that anything that tags them in it, they have to approve, because essentially they want to ensure what is being promoted about their brand is on brand for that retailer, and is kind of falling within their guidelines. So I can get, and that might even get down to more like a community level too, depending on what you're planning on doing. If you want to do something with a specific store or specific region, there might be different people to work with on that as well.
Okay. Are there any other questions? That was the last one I received. All right. If there are no further questions, I want to thank Tori. Thank you for your time. And
thank you.
we
Sorry I
certainly
was late
appreciate
today.
No worries. We appreciate you sharing the information. Are you okay with people reaching out to you if they have questions that they think of at a later time?
Yes, that would be wonderful. And I can also, if I don't know it, I will get the answer for it too. So.
Okay. I will share your email address.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, good luck to everyone out there, and hope you have successful launches with your brands.
Thanks, Tori. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, bye.